Hello and welcome to this really special edition of Off the Cuff, or OTC, special and really mega, because it's one of those evenings where even in Bombay on a high traffic day, we have a large hall full, one of the largest halls full even before time. And there is a good reason for that, and the reason is that our guest today is Mukesh Ambani, none else, and it's a rare appearance of this kind. Have you ever made an appearance of this kind before, Mukesh?
No, Shekhar. This is my first in recent times.
So tell us the reason for not doing this more often in the past and for doing this now.
Frankly, nobody asked. You were the first one to ask.
I think that speaks very poorly of journalists. So why do you think nobody asked? Do you think people were in awe of asking, or?
No.
Because you don't have a media unfriendly image. I mean,
Well, I generally think that I should only speak by action and not by words.
So that's like cricketers say, I'll let my bat do the talking.
Absolutely.
So your latest action, which has got everybody excited, some people irritated, but many people curious, which is Jio. Tell us the vision behind it. Just hold forth for a couple of minutes.
Well, I think that I myself am a very big believer in technology and the progress that humanity can make with adaptation of technology. Like, we are now well on our way from a planet of less than 1 billion people to now a sustainable over 10 billion people planet. And then if you think of the information revolution, and where we are now is the digital revolution. India has led, right, civilization over, but not in these last 200 years. We had excuses to say, okay, we were under the British rule, we were getting our freedom, and I have grown up with my father's deep aspiration for India to lead and become a superpower. And in my growing up years, I said, we missed this opportunity, and why can't we beat the Koreans and the Taiwanese at doing whatever they're doing and things like that. And you fast forward to this time, and in 2008-9, right, which is when we were all looking at where the world was going, we were just entering what I call, and now what the world calls, the fourth industrial revolution. And at that time, it was not very clear. In 2016, it is absolutely clear that the mobile internet, right, is the defining technology of this century that is going to enable the development of human civilization, converge all the disciplines, solve all the pain points. And we were fortunate to have the right intuition that this industry will evolve in, and we started early. We worked on it for 5 years. Right? As I've said many times before, for this, India is 155th in the world of 230 countries in terms of mobile internet access to our 1.2 billion people. And we think that Jio is conceived and engineered to change that, to make sure that all Indians have access to high quality, low cost mobile internet, which is the first prerequisite for development as we define it today going forward. Right? I have said many times that I believe in a digital life, and the oxygen for a digital life is data or high-speed mobile internet.
Mukesh, I am also, being nutty that I am also a great supporter of erring on the side of optimism. But this is a hall full of finance people, captains of Indian finance, many from global finance. and people who deal with other people, who are trusted by other people with their money. And many of them will have skepticism that, in this new punt that you've taken, entrepreneurial punt, can you justify 1,50,000 crore investment? Because you are not the government and you don't have access to shareholders' money. So it's not your responsibility to provide connectivity to everybody, no matter what the profitability, because nor is this philanthropy. You think this is a financially workable model, or do you think you've taken too much of a risk?
So first and foremost, right, it's no punt, right? It's a well thought out, well executed, well engineered, right, ecosystem. Second, right, and for us at Reliance, we've always faced this. In the 80s, when we invested, the same financial community said this bubble will burst. Unfortunately, we proved them wrong. And by and large, if you read the Reliance website, right, our principles of doing business are really determined by, first, do we, at this scale and stage, do we create societal value? Right? That's our first tick box that my board and my governance system will look at. And I think that if you look at
also
Jio,
shareholder value.
Yeah. So we will correct all your perceptions. So A, it's not a punt. B, it's not 150,000 crores, it's 250,000 crores. Right?
If that helps.
That we've announced at Digital India. Right. C, right, it meets all the criterias of investment that Reliance has set out pretty openly. Because at the end of the day, I strongly believe that society gives us a license to operate. Right? And making money only is not the license. So that's the first piece. The second piece is, does it create customer value? Right? Just the first 4 weeks, and we were giving ourselves 2 or 3 years in terms of training people and doing all the other stuff, but it creates huge amount of customer value. It meets an unmet need in the marketplace. The third is, does it create employee value? Are we able to attract the best people? Do they enjoy working in terms of an innovative mindset? Are they really getting satisfaction on a day in, day out? And we think that Jio more than meets that criteria. And the fourth, of course, is it has to create shareholder value. In my last AGM, I have said that our consumer business, which consists of digital services, our media and entertainment business, and our retail business, in the next few years will be as big as our energy business. And with what we have seen in the last 4 to 6 weeks, right, like every time, we will prove all the financial analysts wrong. You wait for the next few quarters, and quarter by quarter, you will see the results. And I am very confident that given what we see on the ground, given the leadership that we have in Jio, and the response that we see in the marketplace from India and Indians, right? It's, we will like, in fact, they will exceed my own expectations and my own targets that I have set for them. So as usual, we will prove the financial community wrong. I have no doubt in my mind.
Only pessimists or also optimists?
I think that as I am an optimist, like what I have seen in the first 6 weeks has exceeded my own expectations.
See, first of all, I'll tell you why I took a more conservative view on 250,000 crores, because as a Delhi wala journalist, I am very skeptical of any figures that come out of these big conventions, MOUs, etc., 10 lakh crore investment commitments. So, we have an immune system. But that
difference between Mukesh Ambani and the rest.
Well,
right? As I said, I speak less, and what I speak, I do.
said that in a certain period of time, your new businesses, and most of these are in new economy areas, will contribute more to your balance sheet than your legacy energy business. Will this happen because new businesses will grow much faster, or will this happen because energy businesses shrink?
No, I think that this happens because the real opportunity in India is the consumer opportunity, right? If you take a strategic view of India, right? India now, and this has happened again, and I am like, and most of my strategy guys teach me this, so I can repeat it to you in terms of saying that you have some businesses that grow well when a country goes from $500 per capita to $2,000 per capita. We are now on our journey from $2,000 to $5,000 per capita. This is when consumption booms, and this is where, if combined with technology, you bring efficiency, then you're bound to make more value in the consumer business. That's we think that this is one of the opportunities in the next few years to create a business of scale and size.
Are you moving away from energy business slowly?
No, I don't think we're moving away from energy businesses. We just think that we are positioning ourselves for capturing all the opportunities. At Reliance, we've always believed in investing in businesses of the future and in investing in talent. And we've done this consistently, right? Like we started off as a textile company, and we then moved into polyester, we moved into plastics, into refining, and so on. So at every 4 or 5 years, right, you get different opportunities, and we like to make sure that we take advantage, and we think consumer is one of the biggest opportunities
if I may add,
in
practically
India.
everything's been greenfield except the media.
Yes.
That's been brownfield in a manner of speaking. Because
Yes.
the first foray into the media didn't quite work, the newspaper, BPO. Energy, you said the commitment remains, but definitely you are moving away from exploration, oil and gas exploration. That's a fact. And why?
Not so. I think that what we are doing in oil and gas exploration is, and we think that in any economy, right, and all of us are accountable. So we are following a process with the authorities that slows us down. But I think that we are really approaching that in a very constructive way. And we want the quasi-judicial system to work. As soon as that is over, both British Petroleum, who are our partners, and ourselves, right, will invest in this business, because at the end of the day, we have about a large quantity of gas, 7 to 8 TCF of gas, which even at today's low prices, right, is $30 to $35 billion of value for India and Indians. Well, from our point of view, it's like opportunities that we work on and develop at different points in time, and any business in our portfolio is not less important or more important at any. It's like your children.
But do I see a sense, I'm an observer, do I see a sense that you are now moving away from businesses which have a very high government or regulatory interaction?
No, it just happens that the consumer business is nearer to the consumer and far away from the government, and we think it's the largest opportunity.
Because, since you talked about the Reliance website, if you check out Reliance website, among the many things listed on it is a short speech I delivered ex tempore at the first memorial meeting for your late father, in which I said that Bombay and Delhi are two different sovereign republics which haven't yet established diplomatic relations. And the strength of Dhirubhai was that he straddled both. So in Bombay, we say you can make money through enterprise and you can try and get some power from it. In Delhi, we get power from politics or whatever, and we try and make money from it. But he was somebody who always intrigued me because he straddled both the worlds. Are you distancing yourself from one of those two worlds?
There was only one Dhirubhai. right? And I don't think anybody
That's a good answer.
can emulate him, and I know my limitations very well. I'm happy doing one thing.
Mukesh, my question is about old economy energy division of yours. I just wanted to ask you about your take on the oil price, because firstly, this Algeria, whatever happened, that was only an understanding. What will happen in Vienna, no one knows. And in Russia, we find complete, Putin and Sechin, they are talking in complete different veins. So no one knows what is Russia's real intention. So I thought I'll just ask you this question, that what's your take on that?
If you take on the shorter term, oil will always be between what I think 50 and 65, right? I would not be surprised if it goes down to 40. But my other view, which is a 20-year view, is that we are now in transition. So fundamentally, the world will transit, right, from fossil fuel to renewables. And this will happen much faster than some of us in the oil industry think.
Harsha Bhogle.
One of the things we ask in our sport is what can be taught and what cannot be taught. One of the things that fascinates us about Reliance is size, vision, scale. Is that inherited? Is that taught? Was that something you learned? Is that you? Is that a legacy? Because it's a very rare quality in India, this vision.
And I'd answer the question on my own personal experience, right? It's not what can be taught or not taught. It's how do you develop the hunger to learn? And I think that the Reliance DNA is really reversed, right? In terms of saying that and to my mind, a lot of it is connected with my father's philosophy of saying always keep the average age of Reliance at 30. And I think that what I have noticed over now, next year I finish 40 years in Reliance. So I am fortunate to see a journey all through these 39 years. What I have learned is how do you build the hunger to learn? And if you actually build the hunger to learn, right, you can pretty much learn anything.
I think your interview that you gave to Farid Zakaria on CNN last week was an excellent one. But one of the areas that I feel perhaps was overlooked is the fact that this is the youngest nation in the entire world. A nation of 1.3 billion people, the youngest in the world, 50% are under the age of 25. But what I'm asking you is, do you think the new world of business I'm talking about, will belong to the old fossils like BP, British Petroleum, or to General Motors, which is already collapsing, or will it belong to the young entrepreneurs, what they call the startups, not only abroad like Facebook and many others, Twitter, but also in India, companies that have come overnight and suddenly are valued at $3 billion, $4 billion, $5 billion. What is Reliance doing to support that movement?
The biggest challenge that I think we have is really to create 1 million jobs a month on a productive basis, put more income into the hands of our young people on literally a month-on-month basis for the next 20 years. And if you talk to, and I know a lot of US politicians, global politicians, if you tell any politician, they're going to create, like our task is to create 1 million jobs a month, right? They look at us in awe. But I still think that the young people of India can do it, and I am super positive.
I've often sensed that when a question of this social good, and you talk about businesses which are contributing to society, and the stock market comes, I find a kind of a contradiction mostly, and I've seen you talking more about it than the market resonating about your consciousness towards doing social good. Do you find there is a contradiction when you want to take your stakeholders with you, you want to benefit them as well as the society? Do you find it difficult to go hand in hand? And I think a lot of businessmen, and whenever I meet a lot of these big companies who have got these CSR budgets, they are constantly struggling with this social consciousness towards generating money. How do you deal with this contradiction? And another question is, if Dhirubhai was alive today, would he have done geo business the same way, or would he have gone for this the same way as you have gone today?
Let me answer the last one, because that's easy. You would have told me you're still too slow. You're like, you've taken 5 years, what the hell are you doing? So that's easy in terms of where we are. I'll answer it in two parts. Like, we can take a view that there is always lag action, and that always happens. So we will say, okay, like all these financial markets don't understand our business model, and that has happened in the technology industry across, right? So if we take, and I think that Alex's question was one of the most insightful for the evening in terms of, so if we really see that what's happened to the corporate sector, right? And if I think about, and for me, US is a good representative for us to get a good understanding of what's happening in the world. So in the 90s, right, the three biggest companies were GM, Bank of America, Exxon, Walmart, all these. And these guys had a market cap, which was each one of them 300 to 400 billion. Today, if you see, all of that has come down, and the new boys in town are Apple, Google, Facebook, each one of them with the market caps of 250 billion, which answers Alex's question. More importantly, you go back, and these are only 7, 8, 9 years old, right? And you please go back and look at research reports for the financial communities, right, for the first 3 years of each one of these companies. Right? And nobody actually had predicted that's how they will go. So I am in a fortunate position, and I really go by my own conviction. It is my own belief, my own conviction. I am in a fortunate position that my board, my people support me in terms of conviction. And as long as you've got your courage of conviction, right, it works for you. I think that the same applies to even where you don't, because in today's world, financial resources are the least important. Right? It is this world has moved to the power of ideas. Right? And I always say this to all our young people, that there were times where you would have, like, and again, if you follow history, you would have only kings and queens and monarchs or governments to do things and change things for people. Then it moved to large corporations. And today, right, I think that 5 people in a new startup, exactly like Alex said, right, can actually not only change a country, but they can change the world.
Mr. Ambani, you're absolutely right. Access to knowledge is a huge competitive advantage today, and the internet addresses that. The problem is the English language itself has become a bottleneck. Most modern knowledge today, science journals, research papers are in English. 1.1 billion Indians don't know any English. So we may provide them access, but they can't access that knowledge because of the language problem. Knowledge providers don't take this problem as seriously as they should. Do you think access providers, such as yourself, because the scale of the problem is huge, there's so much knowledge which is simply not available in Indian languages. Do you think access providers such as yourself can find some solution for it?
Absolutely.
Some technology solutions? And what's your sense on this problem?
Yep, hit the nail on the head, my friend. Like, we are committed to doing this in 12 languages, right? Fundamentally, like, it is very important. Like, there is now technology, there is automatic translation technology, but fundamentally, we think that for geo, right, we are going to be accessible, and we are working with all content providers, particularly education, right, to make sure that we deliver high quality education content, right, in all the 12 languages. If you've seen and followed Reliance, like we've aggressively gone regional, and we now have regional channels for entertainment in all the languages, which of course will also become digital. But we think that education, and then like everybody is making progress. All the big platform companies are also seeing the same issues, and what we see on the ground is that they realize the potential of India and the potential of our regional market. So you will see very innovative products. I don't think that, if we have this conversation in 2018-19, right, this will be a problem, because all of us are well aware of it. You hit the nail on the head.
How does India's richest man stay so humble and grounded? And do you think this trait will pass on to your next generation? And do you think you'd like to pass on some part of this ideology to the political class as well?
As far as the next generation is concerned, I think that I have learned again from my father. He treated me early on as a partner. And when I was like 14, 15, 16, he said, hey, you are not under training. You are my partner, and this is your responsibility. And that's what I have done with, the next generation. And for me, the next generation are not only my own children, but the 30-year-olds that work at Reliance. And when we've given them this partnership mindset, the results are magical, right? The responsibility is magical in terms of, and they have always exceeded our expectations in terms of whether they'll be as good as I am or as humble as you say, I really don't know. Right now, they both, at least my own children and my 30-year-olds in Geo, right, are quite used to overruling me. So I am getting used to being overruled every now and then. My children boss over me. So it's a new life. It's good for me.
So my question to you is, sir, you've been speaking about the next generation, and we've been hearing how Isha and Akash are spearheading the entire Geo initiative. So I wanted to ask you, do you feel that there is a pressure on them to carry forward a legacy, or there's a pressure on Mr. Mukesh Ambani to live up to their scale and ambition of their dreams?
Let me answer this with an anecdote, right? So the real, and this is a true story, right? Isha went to Yale, came back in, for her first year, 2009, came back in 2010. We were still saying, yeah, this is big, but, is this the right thing to do, not the wrong thing to do? Shekhar has asked me many times, but I've never told him this story, saying, when did you first think of Geo, right? Isha came back and said, Dad, the internet in our house sucks. Right? And this was 2010. I said, no. I said, this is absolutely the best internet. You don't know. And by and then we were says, no, at Yale I do everything on the internet. All my course, everything else. I can't do anything from home. And that was one piece. So
which internet provider did you have in your home then?
I had all. In 2010, I had virtually all the 3 or 4 that possibly were there, right? And then the second real piece was Akash. He says, yeah, you think that you are getting into a new business, you want to go back to telecom. And we were we still are open, saying, Dad, you won't get it. So I said, Acha, very good. So I am now getting, at most, every now and then I hear from my 30-year-olds that you don't get it. So I said, okay. He says, in your world, right, only when one person phones another person and that person picks up, right, do you actually charge and make some returns. And there are only so many million people to talk to so many million people, and each have to have the time. In my world, I just talk to a server. So if somebody's put a Facebook post, everything else, we talk at each other. So there is never a no reply, and all of us are connected. And if you can do that, you won't get it. Unless I do, you won't get it. So, and this is then true for all our 30-year-olds at Geo. So, that's why I learn from them, and it's been huge, like in the last 5 years, it's been a huge learning experience. And that's why I think seeding to the next generation is always a good idea.
You've had trouble with connectivity.
Yeah, we've had trouble, and that is like when I got into the IIT, right? I was bright, I got on my own merits in terms of that, but when you go to your first hostel, you get ragged.
So you are getting ragged right now.
So fundamentally, you've got to take it in the right spirit. There is a principle and there's an ecosystem. So there is a governance system, and the governance system makes sure. See, I have no problem as long as I or Reliance gets ragged. We are big boys, we can take it. But the consumer should not suffer.
Even when a fresher is ragged, there is a principal, there is a faculty, there are regulators, right? And there are people who watch that doesn't go out of hand. Do you think a regulatory system in this area, IT area, telecom is not an old-fashioned word, telecom IT area is good enough, or does it have to mature in India?
See, if the ragging doesn't stop in the next few weeks, then that is for all of us to see.
You said this is not a punt for Reliance and Jio. You must have heard this one. How does one become a millionaire? Become a billionaire and start an airline. Do you see that happening even in the telecom industry, if not to Reliance, to other players, that, you know, the way the telecom wars have started?
Well, I don't, because fundamentally I think that the opportunity is big. See, you can bring anything to the ground. That depends on you. Right? It can happen anywhere, any business, anytime.
Mr. Ambani, as the owner of 2 major news channels, what is your opinion of the independence of media in India? How do you react to the internet being suppressed when it's convenient? How do you react to interviews being suppressed when convenient? Do you think, you spoke of societal good and you spoke of the youth of India, do you feel a sense of responsibility?
As far as running media is concerned, right, it's, there are global standards, and yep, we are shareholders, but at the end of the day, we have adequate governance systems that actually manage that. So in a sense, we are pretty much hands off as far as that is concerned, and I would have the same concern like any other citizen in terms of what is right and what is wrong.
So do you keep any track or any tabs on your channels or media organizations? Does somebody give you a report once a day, once in a week, once in 2 weeks?
No, it's not my job.
Not.
It's the job of the board of that media company.
Do you get calls?
No, I don't get calls.
You are very lucky. Not yet, but they will happen.
My question is about changes we've seen in the economy and the businesses, the industrial revolution. We haven't really seen that change in our politics and in our polity. Do you see that change coming? And if you don't, would you like to play a role overtly in the future?
No, I mean, I'm not made for politics.
Jio is the title sponsor of the Mumbai Film Festival, and we're all talking about films, especially Karan Johar's film, and the state of Pakistani actors in Indian films. Slightly controversial, but I want to know your point.
No, you make it more controversial, not slightly controversial.
Well, for me, it is always, and I don't understand all of this, but I'm absolutely clear of one thing, that for me, it is always country first. I'm not an arty-warty type. So, you know, I don't, and nor am I an intellectual, so I don't understand all this, but undoubtedly at all times, for all Indians, India has to be first.
But do you see a contradiction between putting India first and having a few Pakistanis in our creative industries or sports? Because that's soft power.
I don't understand all that. Like, वो मेरे को समझ में नहीं आता है, but like.
थोड़ी ragging कर रहा हूँ ना.
Mukesh Bhai, I'm a great admirer of you, and I just wanted to put across the thing which puzzles my mind. Mr. Deepak Parekh, 35 years ago, created a revolution in housing finance. But we haven't been able to make housing in the scale which I think Reliance could have put forth. 10 to 12 years ago, it was rumored that you would really get into it. In fact, part of the SEZs and other things. So we were really looking forward because I feel that there is a huge gap in affordable housing which a company like Reliance could actually fulfill a demand. So are you seeing a digital demand which is bigger for Reliance than the housing sector, which is a need of the people? So you're saying a social need is being filled by digital, but not producing housing?
I'm not saying that. It's choices that we make. I agree with you that housing is, in fact, one of the most important drivers of the economy and success of the US in the 60s, Europe, everybody has shown that.
I think it'll still take Deepak Bhai to do it.
Simple choices that we make.
I'd love to hear your views and insight on the current government, considering you've obviously dealt with them in such a close manner and spent so much money. So how are they different from the previous governments?
Well, I think that India is fortunate really to have Narendra Bhai as Prime Minister. Right? One of the critical pieces, and I have said this in terms of his whole vision for digital India. Right? And I feel very proud when a lot of people from pretty much around the world that I know, right? John Chambers in Cisco, friends of mine in the White House come and say, a lot of countries are running this race for digitization and for leadership in digitization. And within that, right, we see that India also for the first time is running this race, and you guys are doing well. But it's important not to have the attitude कि इसने किया तो ये अच्छा नहीं है. And I think that the work that my friend Nandan Nilekani has done, right, will go down in history. When your children, right, are citizens of India, they'll say there was one Nandan Nilekani who did phenomenal work in 2009 that puts India, right, on a financial inclusion, on a digital map.
I think that calls for a little applause. So Mukesh, you talked about, and since we're talking government, you talked about ragging. Reliance is not a group that's used to being ragged.
You want a headline for tomorrow?
No, I'm asking you a question.
As you mature, you get used to everything.
It's also complex politics. Priyanka is there. Even her party says Ambani Adani ki sarkar hai. You have any answer to people who criticize this government and say Ambani Adani ki sarkar hai?
Well, we do the right thing and we leave it for others to judge as to whether we are doing the right thing or not. We are accountable at all times to everybody, and everybody is entitled to their view.
But ragging you are not worrying about, or are you worrying about?
Well, ragging, to me, we are big boys. We can take it, right? But I think that if it affects millions of Indians in terms of their quality of service, that should be unacceptable to anybody.
How do we ensure that while we have an enabling atmosphere for a market-driven economy based on healthy capitalism, we do not allow crony capitalism to prosper?
Transparency. It's the only way to go in terms of make sure that everything is merit-based, make sure that you are completely transparent in the day-to-day decisions, and in my view, larger amount of connectivity, the ability for people to have access to everything automatically facilitates this.
I'm curious, and I ask this on a lighter side, partly because you have business interests in news channels and also as a viewer. What do you watch at 9 p.m.? Because the charge against TV channels is that they've become extremely noisy and the debates are being relegated to shouting matches. I'm just curious to know, what do you watch at 9 p.m.?
Watch Arnab, and I like him quite a bit.
I think that is the safest note to conclude this on.
I have to be honest, so it's your basic piece, but I thought that honesty
and there's no
critical.
conflict of interest in what he's saying. So I think you didn't have to make a disclosure of this also. So Mukesh, thank you very much. It's been such a wonderful conversation. Mukesh,
thank you.
Shows you your appeal.
Thank you very much.